Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. At CloudFoundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I am so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
We discussed about this system console, that is our web console. Here, basically we see all our bundles and our bundles should be in active state. We can manually stop them and start them whenever we want it, but it all depends whether if we do not want any bundle. For sure we can stop them, but carefully it should be done. Like any out-of-box AM provided bundle should not be stopped because in case if you mistakenly stop any necessary or required bundle, then it can lead to issues. Let me start this bundle sample. Bundle again. Now you can see it's in active state back again. Firstly, let's talk about the technology stack, but all is there and then we will test based upon the different things, different streams. And also we discussed a bit about KRXT Lite in the last meeting. Today we will more discuss about this. And then we will start working with our code base. Let's start with the technology stack of AM. Here last time also when we were when we created our project over here, the code base over here and the sample then inside the code. Here we realize that inside the code for all our Java files, ultimately a jar gets created. And I said that day as well that it's not a jar, but it's a bundle. Why do we call it a bundle? And what is the difference between a bundle and a jar? Basically in AM we do not use or we do not create jars, but we create bundles. Bundles is nothing but jar. It's a jar only, but internally it contains one additional file which makes it a bundle. That additional file is meta-inf manifestum. We call it a manifestum for meta-inf file. This manifestum is nothing but which contains information about the jar. The jar plus manifestum file is equal to bundle. Bundle is nothing but a jar, but it also has one additional file, that is manifestum. What this manifestum is, it is metadata about the jar. Basically, it contains the information about the jar. If I have this jar, I have this JDGUI tool, which is a DD compiler through which you can see the code inside your jar. If I try to open this bundle here, you will see it is basically a jar only. But if I go inside this meta-inf, you will see this manifestum file. This manifestum file is nothing, but it contains the information about the jar. Which all packages are being exported by this bundle or this jar. What all packages are being required for this bundle to work. Other things like bundle name, bundle symbolic name, bundle version and the Java version that it is using the Maver and everything. Basically the information about the jar. This manifestum is nothing but metadata about jar. Data about jar. In AEM, we make the use of bundles, and those are not jars, and all those bundles sits in our, or we can see actually those from our, this web console, that is system console. Now, this was the first technology set. AEM makes the use of these bundles. Now, where does this bundle actually sits inside AEM? Like in Java, we have the servlet concept, and servlets are stored inside container. Similarly, there is a container in AVM as well, because AIM also has server within it. AEM actually makes the use of OSGi container. Here, this container where our bundle sits is the OSGi container, and within this OSGi container, all our bundle sits. This is our OSGi where all our bundle sits. And the third and the most important technology stack of AEM is basically, we also call it as Felix container. Basically, this is all. This is also our Felix container where our bundle sits. And the third is our Sling. Sling is the third and the most important technology stack of AEM. And the work of Sling is resource resolution. To understand what is Sling, let me just open a page in AEM. OSGi is like a server, right? Yes, basically it's a container. It's a container. Like we have containerized system, like it's similarly like a container. It's a container for AEM. Like we have container which holds our sublets. Similarly, like Kubernetes, they work on containers. Similarly, it's a container which contains or which holds or which holds over all of our bundles. And then like bundles, each bundle is a part of the code, right? It's like a snapshot of the code at any given time, right? Yes, bundle is basically the compiled version of all of our code base. It's a snapshot of our code base at a particular time. Each time, whenever we build our code, what is preferred is that we should keep incrementing the version of our code. Like if I go over here inside the sample code base, and if I open this form inside my form here is my version. Like this is my version. This is my major version. And this is my minor version of my code base. Always what is preferred. See, my version is 1 minus snapshot. And if you see over here, the sample version is a sample project. It also has the same version 1.2 minus snapshot. From here, the version number got decided. And always, it is said that with every build, your version should get incremented. This major version should remain the same, but this minor version should get incremented. And like when you are doing some major deployment, some major release, then you should implement your major version. Here if I open any page, if I open this page Menchtimo, see how AEM gets to know that if you will hit this URL on your browser, then behind the scene there is a resource sitting in AEM and that should be accessed. Like you just showed me that in the browser, when you were sharing your screen in the browser, you hit that URL with model to mol and ultimately it called you that Sling model. How does AEM resolve this URL to the resource that sits within AEM? That resolution in AIM is being done with the help of Sling. Sling is a technology, or you can say Sling is a framework which basically does this resource resolution. Sling is a mapping of URL to the resource within AM. See here, the resource within AM is this. Where is this resource sitting? Here, somewhere within the AM repository, this resource is sitting. If I open this resource is sitting over here. Inside the content, here is the resource it is sitting. How does AM gets to know that when I access this URL, there is a resource within the repository of AM? This mapping of URL to resource in AM is done with the help of Sling. Sling does the resource resolution. That is why I put it R. Here it will do the resource resolution. Bundles is the code. Bundles is the bundle are nothing but jar plus manifest. Manifest is data about the jar. Manifest F plus jar is our bundle Sling, which does our resource resolution. And then we have our OSGi container or OSGi container, which will hold our code base. We have our Java content repository. Java content repository. This is another important thing. All the data in AM is stored in a repository which we call it as Java content repository JCR. Here you can see, ultimately, I showed you it was stored somewhere over here. I showed to you like in AM, I went inside here, inside the CRF fixed. Here we have the repository where it is stored in the form of TAS. But ultimately means, of course, it is stored in the form of TAS. But the repository in which the data is stored, we call it as Java Content Repository, that is JCR. When we have to insert some data in AM or whenever we have to read some data AEM, then the CRF operations like the read, update, delete, the CRF operations in AM are being performed on JCR, that is Java Content Repository. In AM, the repository is called as JCR Java Content Repository where the data is stored. Like maybe in the other applications, in simple Java application, we use some database to store, to retrieve our database, to retrieve our data. Maybe a relational database or MongoDB, anything. In AM, we use the inbuilt JCR Java Content Repository wherever all our data is stored. And it is stored as you know and you can see, the data is stored in the hierarchical way where it has a parent to child relationship and each node or each resource, like here this node, either we call it as a node or either we call it as a resource, would have a parent and would have a set of children, and each node or resource would have a set of properties. If I click on this men's node or men's resource, then it has some properties which has a key and value. That's how the data is being stored within AM, which is called as Java Content Repository. Any questions, any doubts on this? That's good. We discussed about JCR Sling, that is our resource resolution. Then we discussed about bundles and our container, Felix containers. Let me show you. Here, what I prefer using is this IntelliJ. It is a very powerful tool. Here, you can easily integrate it with other plugins and also you can directly communicate with your AIM point kit. Everything can be easily integrated. It's a good tool. You are using IntelliJ in case. If you are using Eclipse, then that is also good, but it's all. Whichever you want to use, you can use that. Like here in my IntelliJ, I can include my project that I created by just going into new and module from existing source. And here I can select the module which I wanted to select. Here I have my whole sample project. Create a module from yes. Maven, I will select because it's a Maven project. Just a minute. This way, I am including the sample project into my IntelliJ. Simple new and new IntelliJ. I just included in one of the existing, like there was a Teams project already and then I included the sample project. Here I have all my modules, core, this all, core dispatcher we can ignore, and like front end also we can ignore. And here we have the core form. Pretty simple. Let's see some of the basic authoring things in AM and then we will start with the component. We discussed about this. We discussed about code-based deployment. We already discussed how will you deploy virtual command. We will use auto install by using the necessary profile. In case if you face any issue while knowing like what is after -p like Maven, clean install -p, then see the best thing is that you can go to this readmem. Every project would have this readmem and here they have mentioned or here like you would be having all the necessary commands for your AAM to be built and deployed. Here you can see to build all the modules. You can then Maven clean install. If you want, if you are running an AEM instance, you can build and package the whole project and deploy into AM with Maven clean install -p auto install package. -p is again the profile and those profile would be the code for those profile or the steps for those profile would be mentioned inside the forms, either the parent or inside the UI apps. Then to deploy it on publish instance, see important thing. Now this was to only deploy on the author instance. To deploy on the publisher instance, you can use this command auto install package publish or alternatively you can provide the port. See how currently we like. I just ran this command auto install package with this profile and how does ADM gets to know that I have to deploy on the port 4522 because my author is running on 4522 and we were able to successfully install the sample project. Here you can see our sample project was successfully installed. By using this command, our AM gets to know that it has to deploy on the port 4522 running on localhost. In the functional, if you would see there are some properties. Like let me firstly show you the profile and then I will show you that auto install. Auto install package. If you see this profile, what it is doing is it is using some commands, some vault commands. Vault is nothing but a tool that actually helps us in communicating between our drive to AM server. Communication packaging and sending the code and content back and forth from your drive to AM and AM to drive is being done by a vault tool. This vault tool, we use the plugin for that within our form. And if you would see here what we did, that the target URL is this HTTPEM host AM port and now the CRXPAC manager screen. Somewhere in this package manager, the zip should get installed. And what should be the host and port? These are the host and port. These are dynamic variables and its values are being defined on the top. You can see the values are defined over here. In case if your author and your publisher are running on a port other than 4.5.2 and 4.5.3, then the matter is that you should change those values over here. Because all your while deploying, while reading, all at all the places this is the port, and for author and publisher is read from here. And similarly, if you want to see that the profile for this auto install package of this here in the functional, only the profile here you can see. Here is the profile. It would be deploying your code into AM publish port and AM publish host and AM publish port. AEM actually by default, in case even if you do not provide any port, then also it will start by itself on the port 4522. The author is there. Because the first reference for AM, there is a preference wise for ports. The first port that AIM looks for, in case if you do not provide, then it's 4502. If you provide this port, then it's best. In case if you do not provide it, then by default the first preference is 4522. In case if 4522 is already taken, then there is another list of set of port which then AM prefers to look and starts on that port. This README file is sometimes very useful in the beginning in case if you want to see all the command data. Now one important another thing over here. We did deploy our code on author instance, but we still have to deploy our code on publisher instance. What I will use is just a minute. Let's make command wrong. Auto install bundle, auto install package package publish. I hope this is a correct command. If I will run this command, the code will get deployed on the port 4503 localhost 4503. It will take its own time. Till then we do not need to worry. It will deploy the code on publisher. Till then, let's start with the other things. Here on author, let me just show you some of the authoring things you know. See, this is editor.html. You would see whenever you start and edit this page, and then it opens in the editor.html here between this URL after the host port and between the URL. And like for the URL, there is this text editor.html comes. This editor.html is necessary in case if you want to edit on author mode. For editing this text should be there as part of your URL. If I see, I told you that what you do is firstly you create the content and you preview the content and then you give a printout. How you give the printout, or basically how you preview, how you give the publish or transfer. The content is by going over here publish, but there is a step in the middle as well. That is to preview the page before giving the printout. Here is the preview. In case if you want to see on author how your page is going to look like before giving the publish command, then just click over here. You can see now. You cannot edit and you would be able to see how the things are going to occur in the same way. Like we have this publish. Let me go back to edit back again. And here also these. Within these three dots, you have this view as published. This is another mode in which you can see how the page is going to look on the publisher. If I click over here, it will take you another tab, and here you can see it appended. This URL WCM mode is equal to disabled. And here you can see, actually again you can see like similarly like this icon preview. Here also you can see how the page is actually going to look like on author on publisher instance. If you want to end test the thing, that will be how your page or is going to look like on the publisher. Best is that you use this thing, $WCM mode disabled. This way, it will give you the page of how it will look like on publisher instance. This was preview. This is edit. This is layout. Layout is how your page will look like on different devices. Here, AEM gives you an option that you have designed your page, you have designed your CS, JS, everything. And you wanted to see how the things will look like on other different devices. To check the responsiveness of your page, you can go to this layout and then you can select that. Oh, your page on this iPad and Galaxy iPhone is going to look like in this way. Layout is this for this. Then you have developer. Developer is important. Developer is basically helps you identify the time being taken to load this page. Here you can see I clicked on the developer and gave me the whole time taken by the page. This is the whole time taken by the page. And between that, the time taken by each and every component that are there on the page is over here. The addition of all these will give you this time. In case if you face the issue that your page is consuming a lot of time, let me go out of this layout mode by just clicking over here. Desktop, desk. Here the developer mode actually tells you the time being taken by ID or write. The whole page and each and every component. In case if you're facing some performance issue, this tab or this developer console or this developer thing is helpful to know how much time every component is taking. And then you can dig that how this component is taking huge time. Then further you can analyze why it is taking much of time. I will tell you about this copy thing, and targeting is not important. I will tell you about this time wrap and leave copy status, this thing later when we will cover these topics. Then I will tell you. Editor, layout and developer, I told you. Plus over here. This open property is. When we will cover the templates, then I will tell you. Start workflow. When we will discuss about workflow, I will tell you. When we will discuss about what is the purpose of workflow, how you create a workflow and how you start a workflow on a page and all. At that time, I will discuss this whole workflow thing. Below that we have the log page. This is pretty important. CM. Guys like who are authoring the page, what they tend to do is they make their changes and then maybe they have to get it approved. Or it may take some time for them to complete editing on the page. Between that time, to prevent anyone else from editing the same page. What authors or what anyone can do is they can go over here and they can log the page. Like I am logged in as an admin user for now. I was admin user and what I did is I logged this page. Here you can see that there is a log icon coming up. In case of this, like consider I as my user, I log into this console, into this instance and into this page. I log this page. I log this page. Then I log this page. Then I do not want anyone else to edit this page. Now this page can only be unlocked by me who logged the page or by the admin user. Admin user has all the privileges. Every privilege is held by admin user. In case if someone is not able to do any functionality or they have a restriction of accessing anything, it has to be resolved by admin user because admin user will have all. Each and every rights is being held by admin user. Now, if you are done, like consider, I am done with my work. I can unlock it by just going over here and unlock this page. Currently you currently log this page to which prevents others from editing. To unlock, just click over here and unlock. Now it's unlocked. Anyone else who is coming can perform their editing and their modification. Of course, anyone else. When the page is locked, they can come and see the page, but they cannot modify it. Modification, updation is prevented while the page is locked. Like we have published, similar way we can unpublish the page. In case if we want to remove the page from publisher, only from publisher, like consider this man's page is there. And if you do not want this page to appear on publisher, you want to like this page. Consider is still obsolete and you do not want to see this page. What you can unpublish the page. This way, the page is still going to remain on author but would get removed from publisher or basically deleted from publisher. For instance, edit template we will discuss and we will go to the template thing. View as published. I have view as published. I already discussed with you. View in admin is nothing, but it will take you to this console. Like if I click on view in admin, this page is something. It will take you again to this console. Like see here, it also took me to this console. Any questions, any doubts? Far it. And help is nothing, but it will give you an information about what all things are there, how you can author like it, gives you tool tips, all these, how you can navigate and all these things. Like for beginners, this can be. This is useful to see what all functionalities are there and how you can perform navigation and how you can start using this. This was a bit about authoring. Let me just go back over here and let me go. Let me briefly tell you some of the links. We discussed about sites and assets. Experience fragment, I will tell you later. Once I will tell you, then only I will cover this experience. Fragment link. Experience fragment. Let me give you a brief idea about this experience fragment. But of course, later we will cover it completely. See why do we create components in AM to perform reusability. Like consider, we have a website, NetWest Bank. This is a banking website. The here we have just for a tiny line on. Here, we know that this part, if it's inbuilt in AEM, some component would be used over here to create this part of the website. Now, if I scroll down again, you can see the same lookout, same image, and below that there is a text like over here. Here we have images, and below that we have text. Now, of course, the same components are being used at multiple places. The same component would be used over here and the same component would be used below. It's just that the images and text are different that we can make configurable as part of our component. Now basically what we understood is that components are reusable set of code which once created can be used at multiple places to display to display that like content on that part of the page. It's reusable, usable code. From code, the reusability is achieved using component, and from content, reusability is achieved using experience fragments. In case authors see that there is some part of the page maybe which needs to be graded by using collection of components. Like consider again on the net best this website. Consider this, explore our product, and below that you have image and then some text. And then maybe some this whole list text. You see, authors or CM team recognize that this part of the page which is made using 2 or 3 components. This same content, exactly same content has to be created on 10 or 20 pages. Now, of course, it would be very tedious task for the authors to create the same content on all the 10 or 20 pages. That is right to overcome this problem, to reduce the redundancy of content. This experience fragment has been used. Experience fragment is nothing but pages only where you can create your content by using collection of components. And then you can refer exactly those experience fragment or those pages. Basically, we call it as experience fragment. Those experience fragment on all the 10 or 20 pages wherever you want. This way, it helps us in achieving the redundancy of content. Forms is one question. Like say we create like components with content inside the experience fragment and then we can use that whole thing like in different pages. Right. Yes, exactly. By using collection of components, you create some content and that content then you can use on number of pages. Alright. This is the ability of content. Now that content was created within this experience, fragment can now be referred or can be used on a number of pages. Now this forms. Forms is where we create our adaptive form. In AEM, as we know, everything is component. Here for create forms also, we use components. Like in simple HTML form, what we use is we create the form from tag. And within that we have the action attribute. And then between the form start and form end time, what we have is the like input type text or input type radio, input type checkbox, all those things. Those are static HTML forms. Now AM makes the use of adaptive forms. In adaptive forms, to place a text field, to have a text field in a form, you do not write HTML, but you even make the use of components. There will be one text field component. And then the same text field component would be used at all the places wherever we want the text field to be displayed. Forms again in AM is built using components only. And these forms are is what we call it as adaptive form. Here we create our adaptive form. Below icons are out of scope. We won't be discussing this. If I go to the hammer icon, here all the configuration and all the main work is being done. I would prefer going to these important links or the links that are needed. The time we will actually get to. You see, here we have the workflow and then we have a lot of options. Once we will cover workflow, then we will discuss about all these things. Operation. Again, like when we will discuss the troubleshooting, then we will discuss about these like logging and troubleshooting. And we will discuss. By the time we will go, we will discuss more about these. Deployment. We have discussed like replication. Just one thing, like here we have the packages. Here it will again take us to the package manager screen. Here you can see. And this thing is, let me just close this. This thing, distribution, is again replication only. See, here we have replication. Here we have distribution. Distribution is again replication only. But on Adobe as a cloud, which is after 6.5, we have Adobe as a cloud that we discussed in our first session. It's not replication that publish or that transfer or that migrate our pages, but the publishing of pages is being done with the help of distribution. Here the agent way is not worked anymore or agents are not responsible, but it's a queue model. Queue sort of way here. Like I tell you, I give you a brief idea. It's just simple. Like for replication, it was the responsibility of the agents on author to publish the page or publish the content on all the publishers. In case, if there are 3 publishers, we need to have 3 agents, but with on Adobe as a cloud, which follows the distribution model. Here it's a pub sub mechanism. All the publishers who have subscribed to receive the notification, they will have to subscribe or they only will receive the published content. It is now not the responsibility of authors to make sure that the content has been replicated to all the publisher, but the responsibility of publishers to subscribe that they should receive the published content. Behind the scenes, see from our point of view, nothing has been changed. It's just the terminology that from replication, it is not distribution, but behind the scene, the way in which it works, it has been changed. Prior, it was the responsibility of agents and author. Agents on author were responsible for making sure that the content get migrated. But now going forward in distribution, it is the responsibility of publishers that they should subscribe and receive the notification or receive updated content. It's like the cloud, things like SNS and those kind of things, right? Yes, the cloud, the Adobe Cloud. Let's discuss about the security. Here we will create our users and our groups. Let's quickly create a user and create a group and assign a user in a group. And then we will give a permission to that group. Let me create a user. Let me use the username as sample user. Pretty simple. What I did is I went inside the user and I clicked on create to create a new user. I told you from CRX, the CRXT perspective, where our users and groups are below the home hierarchy. The home hierarchy are the users stored. In case if I create a new user like sample user, and let me give it a password sample. And let me give it a first one sample. And then, is it actually like a system user, or these are simple users, not system users. System users you have to create through code. From code you can create system user, or there is another way through which you can create system users. The system user has a different purpose. They have altogether a different purpose of creation. Are you aware what is the purpose of using system users? System users, I create for authors in our company. And then, say one more purpose also. We have this workflow that it gets the Excel file and it's create resource out of that Excel. It's somehow, we need to create a system user. And then introduce it in the Sling mapping things. I don't know where I do. That service user mapping. I wanted to ask you that one also. Maybe when go to workflow then? No, it's not related to workflow. I tell you what is the purpose of system user. See in AEM, while we are executing code, the code is executed by default. As the user you are logged in. Here, if you see that I am logged in as an admin user. If I am performing any function here, I am performing any function that I will be performing with the privileges of admin user. Admin users has all the privileges like create, deletion and all. In case of any code that is getting executed, that will get the default privileges of the user who has logged in. As of now, consider I am an admin user over here and I have the privileges on all the nodes. In case if any operation is taking place which is writing some properties on this etc node somewhere in the etc design node. I am an admin user. Of course, I haven't privilege to write over here, but consider instead of this admin user, I am logged in as some other user like sample user, and sample user consider does not have the rights to perform the right operation on this design node. When the code will be executed, when I am logged in as a sample user, it will take the privilege of the sample user. And since sample user does not have the privileges to write on this design node, the code will fail. Now, where does service user comes into picture? Now to answer this, see this is the story of our author instance where we can log in either as an admin or as a particular user. But what about publisher instance? On publisher instance, we do not log in because the end user, of course, does not have any user ID associated with it. Any user can come and can hit our website. During that time, whenever code will be executed, what privileges it will get? That time there is a default user that comes out of box with AEM. That is called as anonymous user. Any user, end user that lands on our website, they by default get the privileges of anonymous user. And when the code execute, it will take the privileges of anonymous user and accordingly, it will perform the operations. Now consider that anonymous user of course does not have the privileges to write something in our CRXT because in case if that the anonymous user would have some privileges, that any end user can come and can write anything, can do anything in our repository. That is, of course, a vulnerability. Of course, that is not allowed. In case if we want to perform some write operation in our JCR Java content repository, basically a repository for that, since anonymous user cannot perform any write operation. That is why we create a service user and then we assign some privileges to that service user and then we executed the code by reading the privileges of that service user. In that case, if the code will be executed, then it will take the privileges of the service user. For that time, exactly. For that time, they call it service user or system user. It's either you can call it a service user or system user. Both are same thing. Like now it's, for example, for us, it's calling a data, for example. And then in the code, it's referring to that actually like, I can. Here we are not getting service user or system user. These are simple users. Here we have a simple user. We assign the password to them and it's pretty simple. Let me save it. You can see my user is created. And now if I go back again, this is a system user that has been created. Now if I go back to security and then groups, now a group can have is a collection of users or a collection of groups as well. A group can have multiple child groups as well. What is the purpose of group is that in case if you have hundreds of users and you have to assign privileges to hundreds of users, it's not necessary that you go to each and in every 100 users and you assign the privileges to each one of them. But what you do is you assign the privilege to a group and then make all those 100 users as a child of that group. Any permission changes, any privileges changes that is being assigned to that group will automatically get assigned to all the users within that group. That is the purpose why we create groups in the game. Like if I create a sample group, it's pretty simple and I gave it a name and also I can give it a name over here. I give it an ID and here is the members option, which all will be the child users or child groups for this new group that we are creating. To give the child a user, then the user that we created was the sample user. Here you can see the sample user automatically came up. And let me just save it over here. The new user, the new group has been created with the name sample group. Now we have our user created and we have our group created. Now we can assign the privileges to either that user or to that whole group. That all the users within that group will get the same privilege. Here you can search the user or you can even search the group. Like if I search the group, that was sample group. Here I have the sample group and it is saying one member. As of now, you can see where this group has been created. It has been created at this path home groups as a way within this. If I go inside the CRXD, just let me refresh this home hierarchy and home group. And then view and you can see here is our sample group. And within this, if you would see, it would have a child that is sample member somewhere, maybe over here. Sorry, how did you find it under view? See here we have this path, the path on which it has been created, or the path. Oh, It starts with O, it's come under O. Home groups or then some random name number same. Now, as of now, this user has been created. This group has been created. The only thing left is to assign the privileges that this user can work or can log in by its own. Here, if I go and assign the privileges, let me say it has all the privileges like /content. And all the whole content, hierarchy and the permissions is all. You can either get specific permissions like some read permission on this hierarchy. It will only have the read permissions. Or if you want to do some modify permissions, then these are the modify properties or anything. If you want to give all the permissions, then just write all. On this node, I want you to give all the permissions and just add it. The same way, if you want to give some other permissions like on simple apps hierarchy, can I give on this? I gave the permissions over here. Let me just give it on /app. This way, what I did is I gave these many permissions to the sample group and automatically the child user of this group, that is the sample user, will automatically inherit all those permissions. If I am over here, if I log out. And then if I try to log in back again and it was sample user and I give it a password as sample. Somewhere permissions are still not fully assigned. Let me just see. If I go back over here, the security, the permissions, let's do one thing. Let's do it in an easy way. Let me again go back to security and let me make it a child of admin. Here, if I search admin this, ways administrator. And it has some members. Let me make sample group also as the child of this. It will get all the privileges of admin. It will get all the privileges. And now if I will log out from here, sign out. And now again sign in. Sample user and sample. I think I missed the password. But for the password, sample user and sample user. I'm now able to log in. You can see I'm able to log in as the sample user, where the name, first name and last name is sample user. Pretty simple. You can create the users also. This is a manual way of creating the users, but with AIM you can also integrate with LDAP like Active Directories. That is LDAP or other Active Directory like Azure or other thing. Through that way, the users and group will automatically get synced into AM. That is another way. See, this is of course a way, but it's a manual way. For knowing purpose, it is necessary. How would you create it? But there is an automated way where you can integrate. If your company manages some Active Directory, Then you can even integrate your AEM with that Active Directory. Can I ask you one thing? There is this link that is like after the localhost for 502-user admin. That's the same thing, right? With this one that you just wrote. Exact. Let me also tell you about that. That is actually classic UI. See, I tell you the history of that a bit and then we'll show you that thing, that user admin as well. Here, these all where we are working. These are all touch UI screens. We call it as touch UI. This is where earlier, prior to 6.0, when it was this company which was handling it, there were other set of screens through which you perform all these functionalities. Like here we have this welcome, not welcomer, but only welcome. This welcome screen, like we have this screen in the same way in classic UI. This is a classic UI. Like we have many tools like Salesforce also has a classic. It's simple. It's the difference in the UI. Rest all is same. All the things that you can do with touch UI, you can do it with all the things that you can do with the classic UI, you can do with touch UI. But all the things, some of the things that you can do with touch UI, you cannot do with classic UI. This is because prior to 6.2, it was all classic UI. All the new features, all the new functionalities were being introduced in the classic UI. But the main issue with classic UI was that authors and CM team could not use the classic UI on their mobiles and on their iPads, tablets. It cannot be. They cannot author the things over there. To overcome that problem, AM comes up with the touch UI screens. And with touch UI, all the newer features like here you can see. Experience Fragment is a newer feature that was introduced after 6.0. This new feature Experience Fragment was only brought inside touch UI and was not never ever a part of classic UI. See websites where again you see all your pages, digital assets. Is this dev assets? Sites is this. Similarly users, you can see users. If I go on user, you can see user admins. All the screens are same, but every new feature that AM is bringing is inside the touch UI. Classic UI is not being used. Here you see, here I have an inbox. Any operation that is in performing case, if you have to be notified, then those informations come as part of this inbox. Here you can see this is view. If I do click on this bell icon and if I click here, it's like this. Here you can see it. It gave me my mailbox and AM mailbox. And the same mailbox can be accessed over here inbox. And here also you will be able to see all those things. Here we have how many. And here also you can see all the same. It's just the look and feel is different. And it's deprecated. Got it. Actually, till 6.5 we can even open these screens, but on Adobe as a cloud, we cannot even open the classic UI screen. They have totally deprecated. For me it's bad because I get used to the classic. It's a no-win. Actually the people like. For me also I am more fond of classic and more used to, but now it's history and not being used or not being preferred. Actually, Adobe don't even provide the support of these. Anything fails, anything not working, they do not even provide the support. Even if you raise a ticket with them, they always say move to touch UI. We have stopped the support for these. That's bad. Because sometimes I have sessions with our authors. I want to teach them some components, how they need to configure it. And then, for example, I open the classic view and then they say, what is this? Let me open the other view. And then when they opened, I opened that and they say, they understand now. But I would suggest you to start making your authors more familiar with Touch UI because any day they can totally remove it from any of their versions. The authors use that one. The others use the other. The Touch UI one. The Touch You. Then it's good. Then it's good. You should start using it. Because see on Adobe as a cloud, you cannot even access this. Like this welcome screen, if you will hit, it is not accessible. It gives you a blank page. Touch. This was about the classic UI, Touch UI. Like everything that we have on Touch on Classic, we have it on Touch, but everything on Touch is not there on Classic because all the newer features, every new thing is being brought inside the touch screen, not the classical. Like you have this user's inbox tagging, everything would be over here as well. You can see you have the tags. I always reach them with the all. I think that's why we get used to. Exactly, let's start. Any questions? Any doubt? Till now, you have just one more thing. I just want to double confirm and the thing that I asked you, that I think it will be probably like service viewer sorry, come again, the one that you were explaining to me, that for any modification on jQuery and that kind of user that we create that services reviews. We will call it like service user. Yes, exactly. It's like a system user. Yes, let me just show it to you also. It's inside Crux Explorer. Here, if you go to this screen, Crux Explorer, this is another screen here. If you go to user admin and here you can create a user. When you start creating a user, see here you start creating system user. Here you get the option of create user and create system user. Here you will. It will not ask you for the password because system users are not to be logged in into the system. They are just that you can use this user in or in your code and you just assign the privileges to them and they cannot be used to log in into your system. They can only be used within your code that they have, that you can access your code with certain privileges, which all privileges these users have. It's not that. It's not that they have some user ID and password. It's just that they have a unique ID that is user ID and you can use it and you assign the privileges to them. Like, let me assign it. Let me create a system, user sample system, and just let me save it. Yes, it's done. And if I close this, if I go to my in this security again and users, and again it was simple, minus system. Here we have our system user and if I open it over here somewhere, you can see it also get created below the home user system and maybe you can change it and if it's all like. Now it's a system user And if you have to further give it some privileges, again, you can go to the, just let me get back. You can again go back to security and permissions and search for that user and example system. Here you can see even the icon is different, because this is a system user, and now you can see it's like we're creating a user for the service. Yes, we are creating a user for our service. I didn't know this one until I got an error, and then I went and I read about it. It was confusing, but then somehow I understood. See, again, I tell you mainly when we let me firstly show you. I think they recently put this on, right? No. It's very important. Oh, because see, prior to this, what we used to do is that on publisher, whenever a code is executed, and then in that code, if we want to perform some modification or read operation, then always what we do is we get the privileges of administrator user and then we perform the functionality. That is not a good way, because admin has all the privileges in through. And ing, that means we can do anything about in our code, and anything can be done or anything can be deleted or could be done from our code. That is, if some malicious user gets an access to our system, they can execute that code in them in a wrong way, and it could hamper or harm our system. That is why instead of using the administrator user, we start using the system user and provide only that privileges. Where we want to perform some operation, like consider if we want to perform some operation on the itself hierarchy as part of our code, we will only give the permission to the itself. Or maybe let's consider that some data is coming from an M. That data we want to store in the hierarchy, then that system user will only have an access to our hierarchy and no other hierarchies. Because by default, if we do not use or in our code we do not say that work as system or this particular system user, then it will work as an anonymous user. Here we have this anonymous user. See, here we have this anonymous user that is by default a part of our code base, and if I show you the privileges that it has very limited privileges. And you will see it won't have any write permissions. If I go over here, you can see it does not even have any privileges. That's the thing. That is why we create system user, assign privileges, where we want to perform the operation, and using that system user, we execute the code. While performing some read, modification or deletion operation, we actually firstly get the session of our system user, and using that session, we then perform the operations. Alright. And then how we map this one inside the inside system console. We need to map this one right exactly. Actually, what happens is we create a system user, but we have to tell where all or which all in which all code base we can use that system user. What we do is we do a mapping of our package to that system user, that this is the package like the whole package, or maybe like your initial package name, and then is equal to system user. Let me just show it to you one. That way, actually, we tell that within this package only we can use the system user. It's not that everywhere that's the system user can be used, but within the limited packages. If I can only be logged in by the admin user, let me login, admin. There is some issue and let me login, and let me refresh it over here. And here you can search the configuration. I hope you already know about OS configurations maybe. Oh. Here we have our user mapping, user map. Here you can see all the out-of-box mapping. Here you can see one of the mapping. Like it, this is the mapping which says that this is the package where this is the system user that can be used and this is the name which you should use in your code. Here you can see the system user. To refer the system user, like if I open this, see a subservice name and then user name. Now let's see bundle it. See, this is the package name. It says that this is the package within which you can use this. This is the system user and then this is the actual system user. If I search this system, this over here, then I should find here, then I should find not this. Sorry, is this the name of the system? User. I think it's that one. This is the actual name and this is the name that we can use in our code base to refer the system user. This is like this in the code base to refer the system user. This is like this, yes, this is the subservice. That's how we do. This ranking is being used in case if there is a same like this package is being referred over there. Consider there is another configuration where the mapping is like till this path, the path. Both will get matched because this is also the package that will get met. And this still core will also get met. Rest depends upon the ranking. Which one will have the higher ranking? They will get the preference. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.